At 10:50 a.m. Today, Board Services notified the board of a few edits to today's committee agenda. At the same time, the agenda and materials were publicly published. The agenda items that were revised are, first, it removed the Energy Water Nexus JEA Solar and North Florida Regional Water Supply Initiative. This presentation was for information only and is not critical to JEA's project timelines, and it will be brought before the committee at a future meeting. Secondly, we revised the presenter for various presentations, including the safety briefing, meeting overview, and the major capital projects list. I'll make this in the form of a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second? Second. Okay. The minutes of August 12 were circulated. Do you have any objections? Okay, then we'll consider them adopted. The safety briefing.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Ricky Erickson, I'm the interim chief operating officer, so I'll give the safety briefing. So with that, we'll put it up on the screen. So as you can see, safety is a core value at JEA. For those of us attending the meeting in person, the safety protocol is up here on the screen. You can see where the exits are located. For those attending the meeting virtually, please be aware and mindful of your surroundings, especially your trip hazards. So if there's any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, that's the safety briefing.
Thank you, sir. Are there any comments from the public? Okay. Ricky, are you going to give us a meeting overview?
Yes, sir.
Please do.
So on the screen, we have our meeting overview. So we have the list of the items we're going to talk about today. So you can see the Buckman Water Reclamation Facility upgrade. That'll be an action item. So Hy will talk about that one. The next one is the Arlington East Water Reclamation Facility. Mr. Doherty will be giving a presentation on that one. That's for information. Our Blacks Ford Water Reclamation Facility expansion. That's for action. Mr. Zemeter will be giving us a presentation on that one. We also have an eminent domain item, Georgia Street Substation Edition. Mr. Pope will be giving us a presentation on that one. Mr. Melendez will be giving us an update on the combined cycle project. And then we'll go over our major capital updates at the end.
Great. Okay. Well, why don't we proceed to the Buckman Water Reclamation. Hy?
Good afternoon, Chair Baker and Mr. Morales. I'm here today to provide updates on the Buckman Water Reclamation Facility upgrade projects and to request approval from the committee to award to the contractor the necessary amount to complete the work. As the committee may recall, JEA owns and operates 11 water reclamation facilities with a combined wastewater flow of approximately 80 million gallons per day. Buckman is the largest, treating about 30 MGD. It also includes a residual management facility, which processes biosolids from Buckman and 8 other plants. It produces a Class AA pellet, which is the highest level of treatment for biosolids, not only meeting EPA guidelines for land application with no restrictions, but also meeting the state's restrictions on specific metals. The pellets are sold to a third-party vendor, Green Technologies, which makes commercially available fertilizer under the brand Green Edge. The revenue is nominal. We receive about $10 per wet ton, which is about $100,000 per year, but we avoid millions of dollars in disposal costs. So as regulations get stricter, availability of land gets diminished, the cost can increase dramatically from approximately $17.8 million this year to over $70 million by 2045. The committee may also recall that the Buckman upgrade projects actually consist of 8 discrete projects. The Buckman biosolids replacement project is the largest. It overhauls the entire biosolid system, providing redundant dryers and continues to produce the Class AA pellets. Construction for that project is approximately $274 million, and it's being delivered via Construction Management at Risk, or CMAR, by Warren Smith. We added 7 other projects to the contract because of cost savings, increased site coordination, and more efficient scheduling and project management. This past May, the board approved the final GMP for the biosolids replacement project, reduced the cost for the blower and the UV system projects, and approved the final design cost for the aeration, basin air header, and diffuser replacement project. I'm pleased to update that the biosolids replacement project, this construction is going well, and the blower system, the UV system, the fine screens, and the operations and maintenance building replacement project are all complete or nearly complete. So today's discussion will focus on the projects whose design have reached 90% and for which we have received guaranteed maximum prices from the contractor. These are the projects that are highlighted by the green box on the screen: the sludge holding tank rehabilitation, the biosolids facility rehabilitation, and the aeration basin air header and diffuser replacement. When we last presented to the board, we also provided estimates for the completion for the 3 projects at $78.5 million, with a promise that we will scrutinize, value engineer, and adjust costs accordingly. So I'm pleased to say that the actual amount of request of $67.97 million is $10.5 million less than estimated. So the raw holding tank retains the biosolids from Buckman and 5 other plants. Built in 1960, it has several major issues. It is filled with rags, it is oversized, and it was built on piles, and the condition of the pile supports is unknown. So the scope of this project includes building a new tank that is sized correctly, built on grade, and includes the improvements shown on the screen. Back in May, our estimate to complete this project was $41.3 million. We were able to further define the risks and developed risk mitigation strategies to decrease this risk and in turn reduce both the contractor's contingencies and the owner's allowances. Our current cost to complete the project is $37.6 million, a reduction of $3.7 million.
Before you leave that,
Yes, sir.
let me ask a couple of questions. Number one, did we change the capacity or anything? How were we able to reduce the cost so much?
Yes, sir. As you go further into the design, for this project, mainly the contingencies for the unknowns, we were able to reduce those unknowns as we get further into the design, and then we're able to develop the schedule and the items that the owners can accept, and things like the weather and the schedule. As you further develop that, you were able to define the schedule and sharpen the pencils further.
And what is meant by an allowance per risk register?
So the allowance is what we assign to the owners for the items that are unknown. For example, for weather. If the contractors being affected by weather, they should not be penalized for weather conditions. But as schedule runs long, we incur costs. So we we adopt a certain amount of allowance in the contract, in the owner side. And example of that in other things from electrical work, from instrumentation work, we identify and define those work that may be unknown, but cannot be assigned to the contractor because of the nature of the unknown. So from things that are uncontrollable, like the weather, to things that we are willing to accept the risks on.
Okay.
Actually, the old tank is over capacity, the new one's smaller.
Yes, sir. The new tank will be smaller.
By how much, I mean, percentage wise?
I think it's about 20%. If the project team here, 20%, about 20% smaller.
No, just about 20%.
Yes, sir.
So the old, yeah, so it wasn't working as efficiently since it was over capacity, or it was, yeah,
Yes, sir.
it was over, yeah, excess capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the existing biosolids facility houses the major equipment that thicken, dry, and pelletize the biosolids. Built in 1958, it has reached the end of its useful life. A new facility will be completed in 2018, but there are several critical components that will not last as long and represent significant risk to the safe and reliable operation of the facility. This project assesses the condition of the existing building and process equipment and any needed repairs and modifications to keep them in service until the new system is in place. When we presented this project back in May, the estimate was $13.7 million, but we promised at that time that we will scrutinize and we will value engineer the project. We did manage to reduce, in some cases, eliminate the scope, and in turn reduce the cost by nearly $10 million. The cost to complete is now $3.8 million.
Obviously, it's a very different project now. If it's 3 million or what's 13?
Yes, sir. So we evaluate everything from the floor to the coatings to the electrical instrumentation, the roof, the belt thickener, and determine if we can extend the life by other means or we can do without until 2018.
Okay. Oh, the rescope, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
The air header and diffuser system provides oxygen to the microorganisms for wastewater treatment. The aeration system was built in 2001, upgraded in 2014. Due to the accumulated grit and turbulent flows, some parts have failed, resulting in less effective treatment. The scope includes removal of grit and replacement of the aeration headers and diffusers. The estimate in May was $23.5 million. Because of the increased material costs and the extended 4-year construction schedule, we can only shut down one basin per year due to treatment. The cost to complete is now $26.54 million, an increase of $3.04 million. So shown on the screen is a tabular summary of what I just talked about. In March of 2024, the board approved the gratification for $104.1 million for work that had already been started. And in May, the board approved the final GMP for the biosolids replacement project and approved the final design for the aeration basin air header and diffuser replacement project and reduced the cost of 2 others. The estimated cost to complete at that time is shown on the next column. And the last column shows today's request.
You can only do this every time.
So in summary, the staff is requesting the Capital Projects Committee to recommend to the board to approve an award to Warren Smith for the remaining guaranteed maximum prices associated with the Bugman Biosolids project contract, including the construction of a new raw sludge tank, the aeration basin rehabilitation, and the biosolids facility rehabilitation, in the amount of $67,970,354 for a new contract of $377,229,828.27. Thank you, and I will be glad to answer any more questions that you may have.
Do you have any more questions?
No, I just think it's exciting that we bring, appreciate y'all, all the work that has been done to bring these down and so forth. And it's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
What are you seeing as far as the cost of construction? Does it continue to escalate faster than inflation, or is it stabilized?
That's a great question. I'm gonna look at that guy over there, but I think the costs are increasing, but it's not as much as the past few years. Peter, if you don't
Yeah, good
mind.
afternoon. What we are hearing from our contracting partners that it is leveling out. So we're not seeing the growth we were seeing there for a while, which we all seen, in the cost of our work and the cost of the projects. So
But is the supply, if that's the right word, of capable contractors still skinny so that we have to continue to do these cost plus type jobs?
I think what we're seeing on the larger projects is there's a lot of opportunity in the region and across the US for that matter. And so these larger contractors capable of doing the big projects are finding a lot of the negotiated work. So there's not a large appetite for doing the traditional design bid build of this size. So I think right now this is the best method. We need to improve our ability to negotiate hard with them, right? When we move into these contracts, and that's something we're working on.
All right.
We need a motion for this.
Yes.
Move approval.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
You got it.
Thank you.
Next one.
So the next one, we have Mr. Doherty. He's going to present a project on the Arlington East Water Reclamation Facility. So Peter, you
Thank you,
take
Ricky.
it away.
Okay, good afternoon, Chair Baker, Mr. Morales. My name is Peter Doherty. I'm the Senior Manager for Project Management within the Project Engineering Construction Group, overseeing the plants and pump stations on both the water, wastewater side, production wells. So we have oversee that project management staff. So the project we have before you today is the Arlington East Water Reclamation Facility, high-level disinfection and reclaimed water expansion. So the Arlington East facility was built in 1976. Now that's a good year.
I was going to say.
1976, and is the second largest in JEA's fleet and treats 20 million gallons of wastewater per day. The facility will serve as source water for the H2.0 purification demonstration facility. Recent improvements to the Arlington East facility include a phase 1 project, which was completed in 2020 at a cost of approximately $19 million. The board members may also recall that we presented the phase 2 improvement projects in May, which has now been re-advertised for bids, and they're due on November 19th.
Was that the one that we'd only received one bid?
Yes, sir. That's it. Yep. The estimated cost for the phase 2 project is $97 million, which you may recall that was brought before you previously. And so we'll be bringing that back to the board in the February meeting. So a little more about this project we've got before you today. Again, this is the first time the board's seen this project, and it is mainly designing and constructing a high-level disinfection and expanding the reclaimed water system. The main purpose of the expansion is to add high-level disinfection needed to support the H2.0 purification demonstration facility, as well as the future purification facility, which will be constructed across the road from the facility. along with the high-level disinfection, and that's needed for the purification project. This project will expand the existing reclaimed water system from 8 million gallons to full plant capacity of 25 million gallons. And that'll greatly expand the public access to reclaimed water.
And is there the piping and so forth outside of that facility to utilize all 25 million?
Yes, sir. Yep. And part of that, with the Greenland facility to the south, we can get flow to the South Metro, which is an area that, greatly needs more reuse water as well.
Were those some of the new water lines the connections through the Davis property, was that all part of that? Was that something different?
Yeah.
That's what that was. Okay,
Yep.
Thank you.
So again, this explanation, we'll get into the dates for completion here on the next slide, but it'll line up with that whole pipeline infrastructure as well. So this is the list up here on the slide are the main infrastructure components for the project. There's a high-level disinfection basin, and then the UV equipment that goes in that. There's a couple large 3 million gallon reclaimed storage tanks, the electrical infrastructure. There's a new plant process water pumping station, and then of course the chemical feed building and a new lab. Okay, where we're at to date. So we developed the design and construction procurement strategy. And as part of that process, JEA entered into a contract with Hazen and Sawyer in December 2023 to design the project in the amount of approximately $7 million. Hazen and Sawyer has recently provided a 10% cost estimate for the construction, which is approximately $162 million. The construction phase will utilize the construction manager at risk, otherwise known as CMAR, as a preferred delivery method with the contractor yet to be determined. The current status of the project is it'll reach the 30% design phase in December of this year, and the solicitation for the CMAR contractor will be advertised in January 2025, with the expectation to have the CMAR contract executed in March to support the design pre-construction services. That's where we benefit the most from having this partnership. There's several other key milestones noted on there with the project complete in January 2028.
Peter, what's the difference between the 162 million that we have at the 10% design estimated construction costs and what was the other number?
I think what we brought before you before was 102, maybe. I think it was.
Look at the previous slide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We could go back.
Yes, sir. That's the one.
Maybe.
Oh, here we go. So I'm sorry. Let's try again. So the 162. Oh, whoops. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I've thrown your cadence off.
There we go.
Keep going.
So the 162, I don't know if we had
one more.
the previous.
That one, the 97 and the 19.
97, that's for the phase 2 project. That's the project we brought before you before. So you haven't seen we were just bringing that as an informational item to let you know where we're at on that phase 2 project. You could consider this a third phase, but it's not labeled as such.
Is it dramatically different?
Yes, sir. So the project list we had, go ahead, Hi.
So there are different projects, sir. The $97 million is the improvement of the influence structure and the clarifiers. And the project that Peter is presenting on now, or the disinfection part, which is the tail end of the project. So they are different projects.
Okay. It's a big change.
So Perhaps I can clarify that a little bit. So the design estimate at the 162 is at 10%. So we had a early conceptual estimate, right? And then we had the engineer perform that 10% opinion of probable cost for construction. So what we're working on is developing a more robust cost estimating strategy with our consulting partners to make sure when we get to this early phase of design, we've got a value for the construction that we feel is going to be consistent throughout. And so we worked real hard on developing some additional tools and with our teams internally to further evaluate it along with our consulting partners, and utilizing risk registers and other means that we've developed over these other projects we've been working on, because we've seen this as a challenge as the price continues, and it's hard for us with our budgets. How do you keep that right? So we're confident the number we have here before you today should be our cost for construction. So we've added escalation, we've considered everything we feel we need to. And so we'll continue to further work on this. We'll bring this back before the board in the future.
Okay. Questions, Rick?
No, just, I appreciate you asking that question because I was confused. So this is the purely the H2O, the 2.0.
This will provide the source water for the purification facilities. So we have a pipeline that'll go over to the demonstration facility that's being constructed right now. This will provide the source water for that. It has to have high-level disinfection. Right now, this plant currently treats its effluent with chlorine, and that's obviously not good for the RO systems in a purified water facility.
Now I understand.
Yeah, and so
That more than anything is
yeah,
it's a whole different process.
it is.
Okay,
Yep. And so
that explains it better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
And would we be building this if it wasn't for that House bill?
So, Rob Zamataro, Director of Planning and Development. So the impact that Senate Bill 64 had was originally when we were doing high-level disinfection, we were only doing it based on what our customers' needs were. So we could build, say, a 25 MGD facility, but it would be 25 MGD average day flow. When you say Senate Bill 64 and we have to discontinue, that's assuming all the peaks go out the outfall. Once Senate Bill 64 comes along and we can no longer send those peaks and variations out the outfall, we now have to build a high-level disinfection system that is capable of not only handling our average daily flow, but also handling the peak day flows. So the actual size of the system, both filters and the UV system, dramatically increase in size because they not only have to handle our customers' needs, but they have to handle all the flow variations. So when you plan a project originally and you assume you have an outfall that can handle the excess capacity, that is being taken away. So it does change the scope and how you plan capacities and sizes of equipment. So it's indirectly, affected by Senate Bill 64. So that's by removing the outfall out of the design equation, it impacts the capacities of those units.
Sounds more like directly.
True. Yeah. So, that's why it is related. And, H2.0, we're adding that facility. The purified facility is also being added at Arlington at a later date. We're starting design, I believe, next year, pending the rules. So it's all interconnected. And so, yes, you say directly. Yeah. Agreed.
We've got to get to the legislature on this. I know we're working on it, but this is not a small problem.
No.
Okay. Does that complete that? Do we go to Blacksford?
Blacksford and Robin Jordan.
Good afternoon. As I previously stated, I'm Rob Zamataro. I'm Director of Planning and Development. And I'd like to highlight one of JA's expansion projects at Blacksford Water Reclamation Facility. This facility is located in northern St. Johns County and provides service for approximately 40,000 of our customers. It treats about 6 million gallons a day, and it's one of the fastest growing regions of our service area. And this facility was previously expanded from 3 to 6 MGD and was completed in 2018. So the current expansion is going to go from 6 to 12. That's, we are at about 30% design. And this plant is purely driven by the future flow projections in this area. Growth is still moving along down there, and we have plenty more to go. The project consists of 2 3 million gallon oxidation ditches, 3 secondary clarifiers, ultraviolet disinfection, electrical control systems, and effluent management system. I would like to take a second to discuss the effluent management system. You know, we used to be, historically, that used to be a pipe that went out to either a wetland or a river. In this case, this is a 100% reuse facility, which means tanks, pumps, a significant investment. So, you know, what a facility, even though this is a wastewater and water reclamation facility, there is a very large reclaim supply and reclaim component to this project. So it's more than just a wastewater. I like to look at it as not only a wastewater, but a water supply project.
But this is traditional reuse water that you're using now.
Correct. Yep.
And
So-
that Senate Bill 60 isn't going to make us,
That's not that easy.
yeah, I mean,
So the impact that will have in the effluent management system, we do have a wet weather discharge to the wetlands. It is permitted under a specific rule that after Senate Bill 64 goes into effect, it will change. So it will go from a 6211 to an apricot discharge. That change will impact how we discharge to the wetland. Staff is currently, you know, earlier you looked at the risk register and allowances. That's one of those things on this project that is a risk. We are currently working with DEP to mitigate those impacts so we can find a solution without having a financial impact. But to put it in perspective, if we cannot reach a resolution, that could be a $60 million impact on a project. I'm optimistic right now after meeting with DEP and talking with our staff. Our environmental staff is doing a fantastic job. We are going to be able to mitigate that impact on this project. But so wherever there's an outfall, even if it's a wet weather outfall, Senate Bill 64 will have an impact. So it does affect all the projects.
that's what I was afraid you were going to say.
Yeah, I know. I'm optimistic on this one, but I'm a
All right.
hopeless optimistic. But. All right, so where the project sits today, the engineer is Odora, and they have a $14 million contract. It was executed in June of 2023. We are pretty much at 30% design. We're between 30 and 60%. We have a construction budget of about $200 million, and we are delivering the project with CMAR. The CMAR contractor has not been selected yet. So when we look at, I'm just going to highlight some of what we're going to be doing this upcoming year. So we will be acquiring property for the expansion, which Jordan will be speaking about shortly. We will be securing the CMAR contract services in March, and we will finalize the 60% design, and we'll get the 60% design cost from the CMAR contractor July, September. So with that, we are hoping to firm up the design, the permitting unknowns, and also get a very sound foundation on the cost here this year upcoming. So we have a lot to do this year. Before I hand it over to Jordan, do you have any questions regarding the project?
We're just trying to understand, are y'all asking us to approve this budget at this time?
Nope, the budget right now is just for information.
That's what I
but
would have thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jordan is going to ask for a decision on the piece of property.
Okay, that's what I saw action there. It's like, I don't think we can take action on it.
Before we move to Jordan, I think I read somewhere that we're currently serving 40,000
Approximately,
customers.
yes.
And I've heard 250,000 people will be in that part of the world, northwest St. Johns County. Are we building it big enough?
Yes, yes. So If you look at the map that's on there, if you notice that region to the right-hand side of US 1, the Nocatee, and the light brown, which is the St. Johns County region that we serve, we have the ability in this area to send a large portion of that flow, about 2 to 3 MGD, up to Greenland. So we have flexibility in these areas to serve part of the region from Blacksford, Mandarin, and Greenland. That flexibility allows us to kind of delay projects until they're absolutely necessary. So there's a financial driver, and there's also a service, as we don't know exactly where growth is going to occur. So if growth occurs in one area or the other, we have that ability to shift flows. So 12, how we approach that from a planning perspective is we look at what the build out is. And so we're at 6 now. As soon as Greenland is complete, this coming fiscal year, we will actually be moving 2 MGD from Blacksford over to Greenland, which will free up additional capacity. So It is tight. When this site, to put it in perspective, this site was the original site for the Cimarron subdivision. It was built in the late 80s, early 90s for United Water. And I don't think they anticipated this size of a facility on that little site back 30 years ago. So we're definitely putting 10 pounds of treatment plant in a 5-pound bag. So, which is why Jordan's here today.
Okay.
We need some real estate.
Well, I just encourage you to, that part of the world is growing like nothing I've ever seen in North Florida, and we need to be ready.
Yes, sir.
Jordan?
Thank you, Mr. Baker. So to accommodate that expansion due to the system growth, we have, let's get to the slide. JEA has identified approximately 23.6 acres adjacent to the Blacksford Water Reclamation Facility. While we considered other sites in the area, after initial due diligence, we found the subject site to be the most suitable for the expansion. JEA received an appraisal on the subject parcel in the amount of $4.66 million, and JEA and the seller have agreed to a purchase price at the appraised amount. At the seller's request, the seller is Hilo Properties Limited. JEA has agreed to a landscape buffer on the easterly and southerly boundaries. The proposed purchase and sale agreement with Hilo Properties has been provided on page 54 for the board's consideration, and staff is requesting that the committee recommend board approval of Resolution 2024-56 to acquire the subject parcel.
Questions?
No.
No questions. Can we
Move
get
approval.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
I like it when they're not asking for more than the base value. It makes it
Me too.
easier. Thank you.
You okay, Mr. Baker, to move on to the next item?
Please.
All right, thank you. JA has identified approximately a 1/4 acre adjacent to the Georgia Street substation needed to support the expansion, operation, and continued reliability of the electric system. The Georgia Street substation is located just north of the Arlington Expressway near the Sports and Entertainment District. With current and projected load growth in the area, JA plans to expand the substation to meet future demand. While the current site can accommodate substation expansion, this acquisition will support future electric circuits between the substation and the load growth areas. JA considered other sites in this area, but the subject property was found to be the most suitable. To date, we have been unable to successfully negotiate a purchase agreement with the property owner. Condemnation authority is requested to ensure that any delays in negotiations or acquisitions do not jeopardize the project schedule. JA's current appraisal values the subject property at $40,850, and should JA proceed with eminent domain action, additional fees and expenses may be incurred consistent with Florida statutes. Staff is requesting that the committee recommend the board approve condemnation action as outlined in Resolution 2024-62 to acquire the necessary property rights for this project. And that's if further negotiations prove unsuccessful. We will continue to work with the property owner.
What about those 2 properties Are those two residential properties on either side of it?
Yes, sir, they are. We have spoke with the adjacent property owners. The site that we're bringing to you today is the preferred route from the engineering group. What we determined was that because this is the only site adjacent to the substation without a single-family home, it was the most advantageous for the project from a negotiation perspective and from a cost perspective.
Unfortunately, eminent domain can get very expensive.
It can.
Would it be worth looking, if you fail, would it be worth talking to the other?
We have spoken with the other property owners. Yes, sir. And after they both took a path that may require condemnation action
Okay.
as well. So what we did is we went with the preferred route for engineering.
Thank you.
Sure.
What do you figure it costs us to do a condemnation? I know we have to pay their attorney's fees.
Yes, sir. So real estate will frequently look at the, and not always with items that come before the board, since your threshold is fairly high. We often look at the merits of settling above appraised value because of the cost of condemnation. And so we will look at our attorney's fees and staff time, the property owner's attorney's fees, which we would have to pay consistent with Florida statutes. But you also run into other matters. So you likely will have to pay for a seller's appraisal in addition to your own. You will have to pay for the seller's expert witness fees. And ultimately, if you went to a trial, you're spending a great deal of resources, both time and money, to take that property. So it really is a means of last resort. We will, of course, pay what is needed if it's in the best interest of JEA and its customers, but sometimes eminent domain is the only route.
I understand, and you've got to be willing to use it. And
Yes, sir.
Or you'll go nowhere. So
I agree.
I don't think it's enough to, I mean, if it was a house on the next door neighbor, I think you'd probably be better off
Yeah.
doing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need a motion for that?
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay. I'll approve condemnation of last
Second,
resort.
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Pedro, combined cycle update?
Good afternoon.
Good
Hopefully,
afternoon.
we're doing very well. Before the update, I'd like to thank Rick Erickson and Kellen Holtworks for providing the August 12th update. I was unable to attend as I was in duty. I wanted to be here, but they did a great job. So I thank you them for sharing the update on the combined cycle during the last meeting. After the introduction of the plan activities that you're seeing here in March, the team provided a update in August, and we cover a plan for a power island and market test to meet the identified needs for a long-term energy supply. The team also covered the greenhouse gas, providing an update to this committee, and also the approach that JEA was going to take. We expect a ruling on this by Court of Appeals by June. Is probably the best that we can share in the greenhouse gas today, in line with the update of critical milestones that we have between now and next year. As we continue seeing that moving forward, we'll bring it back to the committee. There's nothing new for the greenhouse gas. We also talked about the approach of the best solution with or without the greenhouse gas on how we were planning to accomplish it. At the end, we're looking for the best economic and viable alternative resource for our customers. And as noted by this slide we're sharing today, we're on track to come to the committee and the board with updates and recommendations between now and next year, and seeking an approval for an option in July of 2025. So today, we're just providing you an update. We have engaged the independent evaluator throughout the process, and we are just going to give you an update today on where we are with the RFPs. Should be brief. I'm not going to entertain any questions you may have, but we're happy to share that in September, we initiated a power island equipment, which is combustion turbine, steam turbine, and some of the major equipment Our teams had the opportunity of visiting 3 factories in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia of different manufacturers of these products to encourage participation. I want to thank the OGC team, Rebecca, which is in this room. She's been heavily engaged and helping us with the terms and conditions for both greenhouse gas regulations, but also the commercial aspects of this to ensure our terms are understood. We're expecting the bids for the Power Island in December 4th. And while 3 manufacturers expressed the intent to bid, we believe 2 of them will. One of them rescinded their alternative to proceed, but the 2 that are asking questions and helping us through the process are the best providers that we have out there. So look forward to get that bid completed. Their evaluation will proceed after that. And in tandem, we initiated the market test solicitation in October 1st. This market test is looking for different types of solutions outside of a self-built option. That includes a build transfer of ownership, jointly owned, a power purchase agreement, or an asset purchased as listed on the presentation. Along the way, the independent evaluator has been completing reviews to ensure we're being fair and equitable to the process. We received very good feedback, and that was incorporated before we released on this market RFP, and there's ample time to provide us an update. For the market test, we expect the bids to come back March 4th of 2025. Next week, we'll be hosting a pre-bid meeting to provide and answer questions for those that are interested in participating. And we'll continue monitoring the process. This is the stage where we're at right now. Our evaluators have been selected, whether it's using a consulting support or internal JEA SMEs, and we're going to make sure that they receive all the resources available. We also have some subject matter experts that are ready to ensure these evaluations are successful.
So just so I understand what is meant by the market test solution, you're really looking at, for example, a power purchase agreement from FP&L
That is
or Duke or.
that is correct. Market test, the intent is to look for other alternatives that you cannot self-build, right? Whether it could be an asset that is outside of our system, someone can build an asset for you, someone has an asset that want to sell it that you can utilize. Those are type of transactions that you can consider. We provided the requirements, technical and commercial requirements, terms, what are we looking for, what is it that we need, the minimum requirements, and also what we're seeking from a operability perspective, and that is what we're soliciting for.
You hear the people that are building the AI centers and talking about adding their own small nuclear plant. Is that part of the market test to see if that's remotely appropriate?
And you're referring to the small modular reactors? Is that what I'm referring to? Well, the type of resource that we need, right? When we talk about nuclear power, it is constant and then you don't have variability with it. We need a flexible resource. We need to have a generation facility that is able to fluctuate power. So it's more likely that you have more a traditional gas operating plant type of facility. We do, in regards to the AI question, yeah, there is a lot of questions about how much facilities, data centers consume power and how that could be localized, but that is not what is included in this RFP.
Okay, thank you. That's, I didn't catch that.
Understood, and just want to make sure that separated the question, but definitely were able to answer. Any other questions that you may have?
No.
No? I think that's it.
Thank you.
And the last thing is the major project list?
Yes, sir. Last thing on our agenda today is the major project list, major capital project list. It's included in our packets. We don't have a slide for it here, but we have basically a list, and it's the same as last time, all of our major projects that we're going on, the dates and the stages they're in. So it's all included in the packet, and we'll be happy to answer any question you may have on it. And we'll update and bring it to our next meeting.
Questions?
No?
No, no, sir. Thank you.
Thank
Now,
you.
back to you, sir.
Okay, anything else we needed to cover?
No, sir.
Any old or new or other business?
Not from me, no, sir.
Then we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.